that's a lot of mental load. And I think sometimes we just think we should just handle it rather than thinking, I just did a lot more. Like there was more of a cognitive load as we ended summer and ramped up into back to school. And I'm going to need a few days to collect myself, to recharge, to replenish. It's okay.
Hi, this is Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. This fall marks the first time in over 14 years since becoming a parent that all of my children are in school for at least part of the day each weekday. I'll admit to you that this is something I have equally looked forward to and dreaded. The first week they were all in school, I shocked myself that morning by feeling so many things I did not expect. Sadness, a little lost, and totally exhausted. Back to school season can feel like both a breath of fresh air and a total energy drain. After a jam-packed summer, many moms finally get a little space, only to realize they're tired, behind on house and work projects, and now balancing all the drop-offs, pickups, and increased mental and literal loads that come with school. With all of that, it's so easy to slip right back into or even stay in patterns of self-neglect. That's why I'm so thrilled to welcome back Mia Hemstad to the show. Mia is the founder of No Longer Last and the creator of the 4B's self-care framework that has changed the way countless moms approach caring for themselves, including the About Progress community. In this episode, Mia shares how to use this transition into the school year as a true reset, creating boundaries, recognizing hidden patterns of neglect, and building realistic rhythms of self-care that actually stick. If you found yourself hitting a wall just as your kids head back to class, this conversation will give you both permission and a plan to put yourself back on the list. Mia Hemstad is the mom of 2 kids, a self-care coach, podcast host, and the founder of the No Longer Last Journey, which is a movement to empower women to make their well-being a priority. Mia is also a survivor of abuse and postpartum depression and anxiety. She currently lives with diagnosed PTSD and depression. Mia is known for her honest stories of what it's like to be a mom with mental health challenges and for her doable approach to self-care. Mia currently lives with her husband and 2 children in Portugal. A quick note, Mia is one of the 25 special speakers I'm hosting in the upcoming More for Moms conference that is going on October 6th through 10th. And yes, that means Mia recorded twice with me this past summer. She's a total gem. You can check out the conference and sign up for free at aboutprogress.com/moreformoms. Our conversation is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors. Just because your neck and arms might be more covered this fall doesn't mean you should pretend they don't exist. Your skin still needs love, especially your neck and why not your arms. That's exactly why Go Pure created the Neck and Arm Cream Bundle, a powerhouse duo designed to visibly firm, smooth, and restore the look of sagging, crepey skin where it matters most. I think a lot of us have some kind of drawer full of barely used products. These creams will not be one of them. I can speak from personal experience because my first jar of the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream is one of my few empties, meaning a jar that's totally empty. I recently went on to gopure.com to replace it using my own code, and instead of just getting that jar, I went and got the Neck Cream and Arm Cream Duo, because for a limited time, it's 57% off that bundle. GoPure isn't just about transforming the skin on these areas. They have a full line of science-backed skin and body care to tighten, lift, and smooth skin from head to toe without the harsh chemicals or hefty price. GoPure over-delivers on value with over 100,000 real women with real results. Right now, GoPure has a crazy deal. For a limited time, you can get 57% off the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream and Sculpt and Tone Arm Cream Bundle. You can also get 25% off all other products by using code PROGRESS at gopure.com. So head to gopure.com and use code PROGRESS for a huge discount. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about GoPure, tell them it was from our show. I have really exciting news on the book front. A quick catch-up if you haven't heard, I have been writing a book on gentle, flexible habit formation for women this year, and I am so lucky to have gotten a literary agent and now a book deal. which means I can officially tell you the book is called Happy Habits and it will be released hopefully in the fall of 2026. And this is where I need you. Leading up to the launch of this book, I need a committee of gal pals just like you to be my early test readers, to pre-order the book, and to act as grassroots publicists the moment each of these steps are made ready, and to potentially act as an advanced reader. Would you like to be on that book launch committee and get the latest updates, behind the scenes, and first dibs on all book news while you're at it? Go to aboutprogress.com/book committee. And when you sign up, you'll get a newsletter automatically with all the past updates I've given, including behind the scenes and sneak peeks. The link is in the show notes for you. Again, it's aboutprogress.com/book committee. I can't wait to share as much as I can with you along the way, and I am so eager for you to get your hands on this book. Mia Hemstad, a big welcome back to About Progress. It's so good to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. It's been 3 years since I've been on your podcast, and
That's
I'm
hard
so
to believe.
excited to be back. I know, but it's so clear for me because I had just moved to Portugal, and that was 3 years ago. And I was like, sure, I'll do a podcast interview when my life is like up in the air and I'm like adjusting to an international move. But it was like such a good conversation. So I'm excited to be back.
Well, I echo you with it was such a good conversation because that is one of the most listened episodes and re-listened to episodes one I hear about all the time. I've re-aired it multiple times.
That's awesome.
So we're kind of doing a continuation of sorts with it. Last time we talked about self-care, but you broke it down in a way that I thought was so both practical but different than we've ever heard before. So I'm going to reference that and have them go back to listen to it. But our lens today is the start of the school year and the shifts it brings to a household, but also the opportunity it is for moms to both have a reset and to recenter back to themselves, to care for themselves in ways that they've been neglecting. And yet we also have these patterns of neglect that we've fallen into that can be really hard to break at the beginning of a school year too. So this is where I want to ask you why you think it is such a great opportunity for moms to learn to reprioritize themselves right here, right now.
I love that question. And I'm heading into back to school very soon. So I've been thinking about it as well because now the schedule is going to change. And while that can feel very overwhelming, and I know that with back to school comes more tasks and responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the kids go off and we have nothing to do all day. We all know that. But there is a little bit more breathing room for most of us. And I want to encourage all of your listeners to not quickly fill in every moment you get with everything else that needs to get done. You know, we all know all the house tasks and the projects that we put on the back burner for summer. We're like, I'm going to tackle that now that my kids are in school. Okay, but what about you? What have you put on the shelf during the summer, trying to give your kids the best summer ever? And how can you make sure that that's actually at the top of your to-do list? Because I promise you, even though it feels like you're continuing to avoid those big house projects or whatever is on your mind, when you put yourself first, you're actually going to give yourself the energy you need to tackle those other things. They will get done, but they'll get done a lot more joyfully and with energy if you put yourself first.
Mm-hmm. I think I experienced this the first day of school last week for most of my kids. I felt so exhausted when they finally were off to school. And I had to take a nap that day. And I'm not a napper because then I can't sleep at night. I wish I were a napper. But I was so depleted, I think, from the summer that I didn't realize it until they were three of the five were back at school that I was like, whoa, now I'm feeling it. So to take that moment to say, what about you? Like, this is an opportunity to not fill in all the gaps, but to take just a moment to have that exhale.
And I love that you brought up the fact that you were so exhausted because we think because the kids are out of the house that we should like have all this energy to do all of the things. And I think as moms are notoriously bad at giving ourselves space to recover. We don't really do transitions well. We like jump to the next thing. And I don't blame us. There's so much to do. But any sort of transition, even an exciting one like your kids going to school and getting more time for yourself, takes energy. Most of motherhood, the tasks that we do day in, day out, I wouldn't describe them as energy giving. I wouldn't describe them as replenishing activities. Fulfilling, yes. Beautiful, yes. But a lot of the things that you're doing day in and day out as a are actually taking your energy. And we have to actually acknowledge, and especially in that beginning phase of back to school, you probably have bought new shoes for all of your kids. You're looking at the shoe sizes. You're returning things to the store that didn't fit just right for your kid that, like, has to have the shoes feeling just right. You had to get new socks, maybe some uniforms, new clothes. You're signing kids up for extracurriculars. You're filling out those paperwork. That's a lot of mental load. And I
Mm.
think sometimes we just think we should just handle it rather than thinking, I just did a lot more. Like there was more of a cognitive load as we ended summer and ramped up into back to school. And I'm going to need a few days to collect myself, to recharge, to replenish. It's okay. And if we allow ourselves to have the buffer that our brain and body are asking us for, we're going to be able to actually transition into the school year with a lot more energy, a lot more calm, a lot more emotional availability, less irritability and snapping at our kids in the evening and we don't know why. We know why. You're tired. You're
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah. And more than just physically too. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what really hit me. It's like I think this is an all-encompassing, many-layered kind of exhaustion. And it made me think a lot of us look forward to the school year because of routine and our kids,
Yeah.
getting into that back into that routine and being
Mm-hmm.
able to have a little bit more of that breathing room. And yet we get surprised by a couple of things. The mental load of going back to school, the physical tasks that need to be done and the busyness there. The exhaustion you may hit, like finally hit the wall because you have a second to hit the wall. But I also wanted to talk about the pattern of self neglect that we can fall into, because I want to kind of flesh out what surprises may be in store with the school year that you're like, yay, I get to do all the things, I get to take care of me, and then you're like, whoa, I'm getting swept back into all this other stuff that I didn't even expect.
Mm-hmm.
So can you kind of paint the picture for them on what those patterns can look like and how it's so easy to one fall into them and two to stay there even if you technically have a little bit more space.
Yeah, absolutely. So moms have a superpower where we can walk into any room. I mean, heck, we wake up in the morning and we know what needs to get done. We're very externally focused, and it's a gift.
Hmm.
We could walk into any room and we know what's needed and who needs what. But the downside of that gift is that we aren't naturally looking inward at ourselves.
Okay.
And sometimes, let's be honest, a lot of self care that we truly need is very uncomfortable self care. It's admitting to ourselves that we've been unhappy. It's admitting to ourselves we've been lonely. It's admitting to ourselves that maybe we're not being as active as we wish we were, or as connected to our friends or family as we wish we were. It's a lot of stuff that isn't as easy as clearing out the garage and organizing your kids' clothes and decluttering that closet, right? And so I think that not only are we externally focused, but the self-care that we really need can feel overwhelming and scary and big. And it's usually stuff that we need help with. And so it's just easier for us to focus on the grocery shopping and the cleaning out of the fridge and all that kind of stuff that's a little bit cleaner, neater, and tidier and has more of an external reward. But I think what I want to encourage moms to do is to know that eventually those internal needs that you have, whether it's to set boundaries with a family member or finally start your therapy journey or to finally admit to yourself you haven't been okay and maybe you should look into getting on medication or maybe you should sign up for a workout class because you've been lonely and you want to move your body. Whatever it is, that need that you're avoiding and filling with other easier, more tangible things, it's going to come around and bite you in the butt. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
come back around eventually, and it's going to come back around when you don't have the time, energy, or capacity for it. So, my recommendation is when back to school comes around and you have a little bit of time, a little bit of space for yourself, to start chipping away at those things, those problems that nobody really knows you're dealing with, really. You're probably keeping them to yourself, you're probably suppressing those issues, but those are the types of self-care activities that when you finally address them, you feel liberated. You grow in confidence, you grow in self-esteem, you grow in self-trust because you're doing those really hard things that have such a huge return in your mental health and your well-being. And your mental health and your well-being affect everything else in your life. The way you show up as a mother, a wife, a friend, an employee, a business owner. So I just want to encourage moms with the transition into the new academic year in school and structure and routine to not be so quick to fill it with, those household tasks and to actually take some time to deal with your inner world.
And I think that's where that pattern of self neglect comes, is because we're so externally focused. It's easy to think about all the external to dos instead of rather thinking internally, what do I need right now? And, when
Yes.
you're describing some of the things that may count as self care in that moment, I'm sure people listening are like, wait, is that self care? Like, I thought we were going to be talking about some fun stuff, which
I know.
we will too. But this
Mhm.
is where I think it would be helpful to have a refresher of the types of self care that you teach on. And again, this is where we really went into full detail with this with the past episode. But let's do a refresher so they know, well, this is actually the kind of ways you can care for yourself and that you want to
Mhm.
be thinking of now with a bit more breathing room.
Yes, exactly. So I have 4 types of self care that I teach. They're in my 4B self care framework. The first one is basic self care. It needs to come first as your foundation. And that includes 5 types of basic self care in that umbrella. So there's sleep, eating well, hydration, hygiene, and movement.
Okay.
Then there's boring self care. And this is all the stuff that you don't want to do. But if you tackle it, you're going to feel a lot lighter, a lot happier. And this can include cleaning up the fridge. This can include finally getting rid of the clothes that your son doesn't fit anymore. But it also includes assessing if you need to go to therapy, calling your healthcare insurance to see if they cover mental health coverage, seeing a psychiatrist, finally making that gynecologist appointment and getting your mammogram. Like, this is
Mm,
the kind of stuff that moms neglect and avoid because it's not on fire yet. So we push it off until it is on fire. But I want to remind you that the best time to prepare for a crisis is before the crisis. So that's the stuff that actually prevents it. And I unfortunately had to learn the hard way and had 2 breakdowns and then was like, oh, I should probably see a psychiatrist. Don't do what I did. It's so much
okay.
better to be proactive and preventative with our health, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether you're going to see a therapist, whether you're getting your mammogram, whatever it is, taking the time to regularly plug those appointments in for yourself, that time to even think. Sometimes I just have time on my calendar designated to think about something because I'm not sure what I want to do. And we all know we have such decision fatigue as mothers. We're making so many decisions all day long that if you're thinking, if you want to continue going to that gynecologist that you didn't really like, but that's why you're avoiding making an appointment, or if you want to take the time to search for someone new, that's actually it's some thinking that you need to take some time to do. And you're probably not going to make that happen in between school drop off and pick up and all that. So this is the type of self-care that falls under boring. And then there's brilliant self-care, which is the fun stuff, the watching your favorite show, taking an art class, going to a dance class, spending time with your friend, lights you up inside. And then there's bougie self-care, which is anything that feels luxurious to you. So this doesn't necessarily have to be getting your nails done, getting a massage. My favorite bougie self-care to date is getting myself a robot vacuum. I love to just press that button and watch that thing do the job I used to do while I lay down on the couch and watch TV, or I take a longer shower. So just know that bougie self care is whatever feels luxurious to you. So those are my four
Okay.
B's.
Those 4 Bs. I mean, this is what people keep bringing up to me. The 4 Bs. One thing I wanted to ask about that. When you talk about the boring, I think that's when we can easily get swept into those external tasks again,
Yep.
and therefore the patterns of self-neglect because you're just thinking of like all the to-dos. But I think what's different about the way you presented that, it's the ones that matter to you. It's not what matters to everyone else, although it could have some crossover. It's the ones that keep bothering you or that have to do with you specifically that have been neglected.
Correct. And I mean, the one way to look at it is I think that self care is supposed to serve you, not the other way around.
Okay.
So if you're just doing a bunch of external things because it's like, everybody look at how clean and organized my house is, but then within your own self, it's a cluttered mess in your mind because you haven't dealt with something you should have grieved, something you should have dealt with, maybe a traumatic experience, maybe a negative experience at work. There's stuff happening inside of you that needs to be tended to. We don't just wake up and everything we've been carrying just gets flushed away. And so I think it's really important as we go through life that we're asking if our self-care is supporting our health, happiness, and well-being. So to me, that's the ultimate goal. And so, yeah, I can fill my boring self-care list with a bunch of household tasks and have a very clean and organized house. But if I'm systematically neglecting to deal with whatever is going on with me, that's going to eventually leak into your ability to show up for these other areas of your self care. It's going to affect your ability to show up as a mother. It's going to affect your ability to show up as a wife. So ultimately, if your well being is neglected because you keep reorganizing your pantry, that's not self care. That's not self care because you're not taking care of you. You're doing something else, right?
It can be difficult to untangle because I think this is where women are like, I just want a straightforward black and white answer on what is
Right.
self-care, what is not. I think these four types though are really instructive in ways that you can break it down when you consider what do I need, what do I want, what has been neglected in these areas. And this is where I actually want to ask you about the how piece to this,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the women who are feeling the multi layered exhaustion. And as part of that, the multi layered neglect of even knowing the answers to those questions. What do I need?
Yeah.
What do I want? What self care am I lacking in? How do you advise that they proceed to even figuring that out, to getting back in tune?
Yeah. So there's a variety of ways we could approach this, but something that I think affects the how is the fact that mothers have a lot of competing priorities, and it can be really hard to determine if you should prioritize finding a therapist, for example, or organizing the pantry. I'm
Mm,
not saying that organizing the pantry is not a good use of your time. I just spent all last week organizing my kitchen because with school starting and my kids being home for a couple more weeks while I'm working with them, no childcare, they're constantly asking, Mom, I want a snack. I can't find a snack. So I literally reorganized the pantry so that they can easily access their stuff. That's going to
mm,
alleviate stress in my day, right? So what I'm trying to say is these types of external things that feel good to get done and that you can see them, they're tangible, those things are important. But how do we make sure that the stuff that doesn't feel as urgent doesn't get neglected, like your health and your happiness and your well being? I like to use this kind of order of priority system. So when I look at my week, I make sure that I'm working on 1 to 2 basic self care each day.
okay.
So whatever I'm really struggling with at the moment. So I recommend 1 to 2 basic self care practices to focus on each day. So for me right now, that is hydration. I fill up my big old water bottle in the morning after breakfast, and then movement. I love to make excuses for why I don't have time to exercise, but I'm like, no, we're going on a walk. We're getting outside. So those are the two. So out of the 5 basics, pick two to focus on
Okay.
each day. And then for boring, I always make sure that there's at least 1 to 2 per week that I'm focusing. And one of those
Okay.
boring self care activities has to do only with me. So one of them would be organize the pantry. That's what I did last week, right? And then the other one was finally schedule an appointment with this like sleep study person. I have a sleep disorder. So making sure that I schedule that appointment is really important. So that way I always make sure there's something for me happening each week and there's something for the house or something for the kids happening each week. And then with brilliant self care, I try to do one a week. That's either make time to watch my favorite show, or I've been scheduling like a once a month movie night. So it's like making sure I'm reaching out to my friend and coordinating the next movie night, right? What are we going to watch? When is it going to be? What time? Who's bringing what food? So that's my brilliant self care to look forward to. And then I try to do one bougie self care per month. This month, well, I already did my bougie self care. Let's say next month, I'm getting a dryer. I have been hanging my laundry in Portugal for 3 years. And I am very excited to be getting a dryer. That's a luxury here. People don't have dryers here in Europe. So
Yeah.
that's how I approach every week when I sit down, I do my 15 minutes of journaling. I use the 4 B's to guide me. It's 1 to 2 basic per day, but 1 to 2 boring per week, and then one brilliant and one bougie per month. When I use that structure, it keeps me from getting overwhelmed trying to do every self care activity every single day. That is not possible. But when you have this structure, it makes sure that the month doesn't go by and again you forgot about you. And again you forgot about scheduling that appointment. And again you forgot about calling the doctor. No, no, no. Once a week, what is happening for you? Non negotiable. And then a quick tidbit, a nod to the 3 Ds in my decrease, delete, delegate boundary setting
Mm-hmm.
framework. You know me, I always say moms don't need to be better at time management. We need less stuff to manage.
Yeah.
So, do a little dump of everything that's going on when you do your weekly journaling and see what can I decrease? What can I delete? What can I delegate? Because you need more time and space to practice self-care. That's just a fact. You can't cram self-care into an already crammed schedule. So, doing that boundary setting process can be very helpful as well.
We mistakenly believe that a good mom equates a martyr mom. But all this does is create worn out moms who find more resentment than fulfillment in motherhood. It is good to want more. Moms who have more in their lives have more to give from, more energy, more fun, more love, because they are more themselves. If this is appealing to you, I want to invite you to my first inaugural More for Moms conference. It's a free 7-day conference I'm hosting for moms who are ready for more in their lives, more in their happiness, habits, health, home, and hobbies. And you guys are getting the first dibs. You can go to aboutprogress.com/more for moms to check out what I have been working on for several months, including the 25 high caliber speakers that we are hosting for this 7-day event. Each world-class speaker will teach deep and practical ways for mothers to access more fulfillment, joy, and progress in their lives. And this shift matters not only because it helps enrich their families, but because each woman is a person in her own right and worthy of more. It's time for you to lean into more. Go to aboutprogress.com/more for moms. I cannot wait to have you part of the conference. I love that. So this is multi-layered, both deep, but also very practical. The deep side to it, I think, is what we talked about earlier, is valuing what you want and need, putting yourself on the list, acknowledging
Yeah.
the positive effects it has for you and for everyone that's connected to you. So that's the
Mhm.
deep work. But this practical side of it, I love the idea of really getting practical and also tactile about when am I doing what to ensure that I'm hitting those, as well as the boundaries. So I'm going to recap those: decrease, delegate, delete. And that's what you do with do you do that after like a brain dump almost, thinking about what are my responsibilities right now for this particular season? Or how else does that look? Or in a moment,
Yeah.
kind of?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's changed every season in life. I would say
Sure.
that when I
Maybe both.
start working with yeah, when I start working with someone, let's say they're doing this for the first time, we usually
Mm-hmm.
start with a brain dump of everything that's on their plate because they're managing so much. And then we'll do, okay, what can you decrease? What can you do less of? So, for instance, like, let's say they're cooking a meal every single night. And I'm like, okay, you can easily start to double batch, make twice as much. So you're only cooking every other night. That makes a huge difference with the mental load because you're not asking what's for dinner. You know, you're reheating the lasagna. You know, you're reheating the roast chicken, right? When it comes to deleting, a lot of times we're working on some commitments. Like, let's say you volunteered to be at the bake sale. You have no business being at the bake sale this time around. So you need to cancel that commitment. Or it could be deleting a belief like, I don't have time for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't deserve to carve out time for me. I don't deserve to spend money on me. It's not the right time for me to be focusing on me. Those beliefs, again, will come around and bite you in the butt, and you'll end up getting burned out or unhealthy or unwell. And who does that serve? Not you, not your family. So there's some beliefs you need to unsubscribe from in order to step more fully into the work that is taking care of yourself. And then there's delegate. Can you ask your partner to pick something up, your mom to pick something up, your sister to help you with something, your friend to help you with something? People are a lot more willing to help out than you realize. A lot of us don't want to ask because we're scared of hearing no, but we need to become more comfortable hearing no. Not only because it's going to help you put yourself out there more, but because then you're going to feel more comfortable telling people no because you're receiving no. And you're like, I can respect your no and I can let people hear my no as well. Right. And I think we just need to get more comfortable with that. I know some people have rejection sensitivity. I do too, but I feel like through exposure therapy, I've helped myself, hear the word no, and that's okay. But we really have to work on minimizing the amount of stuff on your plate. And sometimes it's like outsourcing to grocery delivery, outsourcing to getting a housekeeper once a month or once a quarter so that you're not doing all the work yourself. Right. And I always like to tell people with this one because they go, I could never do a laundry service. I could never, and it's like, but in this season where you're going through this mental health flare up, or you just had a baby, or your toddler just started school and they're having a tantrum every morning, can you delegate or outsource something and know that it's temporary? It's
Mm,
just a season. It's
mm,
not forever. And I really wish I had that flexibility with myself when I was in early motherhood. I remember
mhm,
thinking, but I have student loans. I need to focus on student loan repayment. When in reality, I could have probably dropped down my payment a little bit because I was paying double like my minimum amount just to get a sitter because I wasn't sleeping. I had two babies at home. I wasn't sleeping for months. That did not do me any favors. And I think if someone just said, Mia, but in this season, your babies don't know how to sleep through the night yet. You need some more help at home so that you can keep your health intact and then you can go back to paying off your loans later, right? Moms need to be reminded that things can be for a season. Changes aren't
mm.
permanent. And what matters most is that you're supported through the season you're in. That's what matters most is that you're supported.
I think that lens is really helpful when women have a trade off sensitivity too, right? When they
Mm-hmm.
just are like, I can't because that means this part of my life will suffer, or this person, or it will cost money, or it will require someone to be put out a little bit. Like there's always going to be trade offs. So if you gave yourself permission to make certain trade offs for a particular season, knowing like, hey, it can change. It doesn't have to be this way forever. I think that's so helpful. You know,
Yes.
that brain dump of responsibilities and moving through those 3Ds, I think maybe the first step, honestly, to everything we just talked about, because
Is the first step.
it
I
is
always
okay.
say that boundaries are the prerequisite to self care. You cannot practice self care sustainably unless you do that first.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's been, those boundaries have been pushed and
Mhm.
muddled, especially during the summer months, right? And
Yep.
so, if we're going to talk about resetting and recentering yourself at the beginning of the school year,
Mhm.
that seems like the most important thing to do because it is going to
Yeah.
change seasonally too. And then to move into, okay, now what can I know under those, the 4 B's that I can then prioritize? I did want to lean a little bit more into brilliant. This one I think is a little bit harder to wrap your head around if you only think of it as basic or bougie kind of stuff, which are a little bit easier to get in touch with, I think, once you understand the practicality of those and the fun of the bougie one too. Brilliant, that strikes me as like hobbies almost.
Mhm.
What how else would you describe brilliant so they can kind of
Yeah.
flesh out what that looks like for them?
Yes. This is the intangible self care. So it can be
Okay.
difficult for people to
Mm,
wrap their head around, and that's okay. Brilliant self care is any activity or thing that lights you up inside.
okay.
It's connecting with the things that make you feel like you. I like to think of brilliant self care as the opposite of burnout because I feel like burnout, that kind of spiritual burnout where you feel like you're not yourself and you feel numb and you feel disconnected. I think that happens when we go too long not doing anything that connects us to ourselves. So for me, it was going back to dance class, right? That's a hobby of mine, but it's something that's also a passion. It's something that lights me up and energizes me. It makes me feel like me,
Mm,
keeps my inner light from being extinguished and burned out, right? I know one of my clients started going to pottery class and making ceramics, and that was really fun for her. One of my clients started a book club to just read fun fiction. I started a monthly movie night club with a friend who loves movies. And then also just I love watching TV and movies. I went to film school, and for some reason, even though I went to film school and learned how to make a movie, I still have that voice, like my parents' voice in my head, like watching TV will melt your brain. This is not a good
yeah.
use of your time. You should only be watching documentaries. But I love film as an art. The same kind of like value of going to a museum in France. To me, that's going to see a good film or watching a good show. And my husband and I went to the same school. So we love to like talk about the show after. It's like our thing. So to me, that lights me up. And to just like for me now, Brilliant Self Care in a way takes place once a week, not just once a month anymore. Because I'm like, ooh, what show am I going to watch this week? Because now I'm like, I go to bed earlier and earlier now. So I have to
Yes.
actually like plan what
Totally.
day I'm going to watch a 45-minute show. I'm like, okay, what day is that going to happen? We have to put the kids
Sure.
to bed early because I'm going to go to sleep at 9:30, okay? But yeah, so that's to me, it's anything that lights you up. And I think it's so important because that's the one thing that moms are not going to make time to do
Mm-hmm.
because it's fun. And it's like, I'm an adult. Who has time for fun? And it's like, you need to have time for fun, girl. I think that's why moms, like, that classic identity crisis we all go through. Because your whole life revolves around keeping someone alive and you stop doing
Yeah.
all the things that made you feel like you. Of course, you lost touch with who you are. You stopped doing all the things that made you feel like you. And so that inner light, your inner brilliance got extinguished. And now you're like, where did she go? I don't even know what I like anymore. What's my favorite color? Like, that's the stuff that we have to protect. Even though it feels frivolous, even though somewhere along the way someone said, you're grown now, you don't get to play, playing is for kids. Like, no, we all need to play. We all need to play, no matter how old we are.
Mm-hmm. And for those in my community, they know that the do something list can help them figure that out because there are people where it's been so long and that you don't even know what lights you up anymore. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is trying.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying, and it's okay that if it's not the thing. If the movie club isn't your thing, fine. That's great. Now you know. Now you can try that tap dance or you can cross stitch at home or whatever
Yeah.
it may be that you love that will help you relearn really what lights you up.
I love that. And if you could see, I have a graveyard of hobbies that I started and never continued.
I
There was
love
a
hearing
version.
that. I
I
love that.
do. There's so many sketchbooks and watercolor. And it's just like,
I have those
there
too.
was a time when it was like, I wasted money. I need to stick to that hobby because I spent the money. You need to give yourself permission to try. How many times have you bought your kid a toy? You thought it was going to be the thing. They were so excited in the store and
Mm-hmm.
they haven't touched it since. Are you mad at
Yes.
them? Are you like, you better play with that toy? I mean, maybe once or twice, but like after a while, like your kid's just not interested. And I think we need to extend ourselves the same patience and grace because we're figuring it out too. We're figuring out what we even like to do, and that's okay.
Yeah. And that's the other obstacle, the time and money piece. Well, we do that with
Mhm.
our kids all the time. Like, how many of us raise what become professional soccer players? Like, very, very few. Maybe like the 1% of the 1%. But yet, we're all going to those games and the
Yes.
practices. And, so why not for ourselves too? And it doesn't have to be a lot and it doesn't have to be anything, even. There's so much
Mhm.
on YouTube that is free to help
Yeah.
you lean into something that you were even curious about.
100%. 100%. There's so much to get out of trying something. And yeah, you're right. It's like, do we expect our kid to be the most exceptional version of whatever activity we sign them up for? I hope that's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure. And we shouldn't put that same pressure on ourselves either.
Well, here's your permission slip then to everyone. Lean into the brilliant side, especially once you take care of some of the boundaries and sketch out how to make that time more possible. I would love to end with what we're thinking of doing on the four B's. Maybe one thing that we know that we're going to prioritize as we go into the school year. I'm going to share mine first so I can give you a little
Yeah,
bit of
I
time
love
to think.
that.
This summer, I bought myself a sewing machine at the end of the summer, and it's
Yay.
been sitting just out of view on the other side of this computer on the floor. I was hiding it from my kids because they're not really allowed in my office. So
Right.
it's there, hasn't been used yet, haven't cracked it, haven't looked at the owner's manual. It's the time factor for me. That's the hobby, my brilliant type of self care that I want to prioritize by doing something like home ecchi, like pajama pants kind of level.
So
So
beautiful.
that's mine. So
Oh my
what are you
goodness.
thinking that you want to put on the top of your list?
Oh, for brilliant self-care?
Any form actually would be nice to hear.
Yeah.
You talked about the sleep expert, which is one of I guess your boring ones, right? But what's
Yeah,
something
I've
that you're like,
always got,
this this is coming. I'm coming for it.
I easily can tell you. So I finally, after 3 years of living in Portugal, have found three really good mom friends. I was kind of a hermit for a bit when I came out here. I was just focused on getting stable and from a
Mm,
health perspective, from a financial perspective. And now I finally have some really amazing friends. And I was like, you know what? We need to do a monthly mom's night out. And honestly, what's hilarious is I said mom's night out because that's kind of what people call it. But I was like, can it be a mom's night in? Can we send
Mm,
all the kids and the dads to whoever's house we're not at? And all the moms will just come, get on the couch, get the pillows, get the blankets, get the tea, because like none of us drink,
and
and
spill the
just like,
tea.
and spill the tea. And we'll just like complain and cry and laugh and have the comfort of being at home. Come in your sweatpants. You don't got to get dressed. And we're going to start doing that once a month. I haven't set a date yet, but we've been talking to each other about it that when the school year starts, we're going to make it happen. And I can't tell you how much that makes my heart sing because I am such a friendship community based type of girl. But it has to be with the right people, and I feel
Mm,
like I finally found those people. So I'm so grateful to be investing more time into relationships.
I love that answer so much. And it actually makes me want to move to Portugal so I can join in. But I just had to do it here.
Please. Oh
But
my
let's
gosh.
be accountability buddies on that.
I love that.
I'll report in when I've made something home ec worthy, and you send me a pic of your first tea time mom night in night. That
I
would be
will.
so great. It's
I'm
always fun to have
picturing
that.
some like gingham, like checkered pajama pants, like frilly with frilly like leg parts. Oh gosh, I'm so excited.
Sounds amazing. Can't wait. Can't wait for the picture I'm gonna get on that and what I'm gonna send you too. Maybe I'll make some gingham pants then to go with that theme. So I would love to let them know where they should go to learn more from you, and then we'll end with a final question. But I mean, where should they go, Mia?
Go to my website, y'all. NoLongerLast.com is the place to be. All my resources are there, including my free 4B guide, which has been downloaded hundreds of times now. That shares the 4B self care framework, but with a
Okay.
lot more examples, a little bit of some journal prompts, and also like this really great one pager that you can print out that has that like how many times you should schedule each type of self care per month, per week, slash whatever, so that
Mm,
you don't get overwhelmed. So it's a great guide. Go get it. It's for free. It's on my site.
awesome. We'll make sure we link to that. We'll also link to your Instagram and your podcast as well. Our final question: what is one small way listeners can take action on what they learned today?
Ooh. Schedule 15 minutes. Mine's always on Sunday where you check in with yourself. You can do the brain dump and go through the 3Ds. You can jot down a type of self care under each B. You
Okay.
can write down how you're feeling. Maybe I am not okay, or I am overwhelmed, or I need more help. And that can really kickstart, okay, well, what do I need to help me through this? And those 15 minutes for me once a week is how I make sure that I don't wake up at the end of every year and go, that year just flew by and I still haven't
Hmm.
done anything for myself, right? That 15 minutes a week is sacred time where I make sure that I'm forgotten. And I encourage every mom to make that time for her as well.
So good. And I think it all goes back to I love how you the name of your work really is, no longer last. That's it. That's what we're asking for. You're no longer
Mm-hmm.
last. This is an opportunity for you to actually live that out. What about
Yes,
you? What about you? It's time. It's time to
it's
not
time.
be last. No longer last for you. Mia, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Monica. Always a pleasure.
Okay, so good.
So
I'm been like looking at the
good.
baby monitor. My I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. I'll now share the progress pointers. These are the notes I took so you don't have to. And those on my newsletter get them in a graphic form each week. You can sign up at aboutprogress.com/newsletter. The newsletter version is much more robust than what you'll hear me share here, and this is definitely one I think you need the full version. Number 1, when school starts, don't fill every gap right away. Number 2, use the 4 B's of self-care: basic, boring, brilliant, and bougie. Number 3, make self care manageable with a simple rhythm: daily, 1 to 2 basic practices, weekly, 1 to 2 boring tasks, and monthly, at least 1 brilliant and 1 bougie activity. Number 4, do a weekly 15-minute brain dump and also sort through the 3 Ds: decrease, delete, or delegate. And number 5, give yourself permission to try. Self care doesn't have to be perfect. I again want to invite you to join the inaugural More for Moms conference, of which Mia will be one of our featured speakers. I am honestly not even nervous about hosting this because it's one of the rarest of pursuits that feels so much bigger than me. And it all comes back to finding this thread of need that connects us all, the desire for more. You can sign up for free at aboutprogress.com/more-for-moms. This podcast is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits from more time to more content with me. More Personal is our private premium podcast for 2 levels of the Supporters Club. We recently had a deep dive all about MLMs and how they're built on the backs of women, all coming from someone who has taken part in 2 herself. You can check out the Supporters Club at aboutprogress.com/support. And you can always support the show for free. Right now, I would suggest doing so by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and in doing so, automatically get submitted to our yearly anniversary giveaway that happens each fall. Thank you so much for listening. Now, go and do something with what you learned today.
Right now, I'm actually, okay, what am I working on right now? Hygiene. So I'm trying to fill up my big old water bottle after breakfast. It's like the habit I'm working on, hygiene.
Do you mean hydrate?
Movement. Yes, sorry.
I just
Hydrate.
I knew that would be hard to correct. So say that one over. Well, let's do hydrate.